Hi guys, I'm Heidi. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about books that have been on my TBR for the longest time and my plans for reading them. So I have a bunch of books on my TBR that have been sitting there forever, and I'm going to start a little reading project where I'm going to be reading one or two books each month from this TBR. And if I don't manage to finish them, then no pressure. I won't be starting another book from this TBR until I have, because I feel like these are all books that I really want to read, and for whatever reason I just haven't picked them up yet. So I'm going to try and change that. These are all physical books, so I'm not including any Kindle books this time. So yeah, let's get started. So the first book that I want to talk about is Skin by Ilka Tampke. So this one I picked up from a discount box at my local bookshop, so it was a total impulse buy. But the story takes place in Britain in AD 43. So it's the Iron Age, and Britain is about to be invaded by the Roman Empire, and we follow a young woman called Aelia who lacks something called skin, which is a kind of a totem, and because she doesn't have it, she is not allowed to marry, she's not allowed to take part in tribal ceremonies, and she can't learn. And it sort of blends fantasy with historical fiction, and it sounds totally fascinating, so I'm really excited to get to it. Then I've got Milkman by Anna Burns. I think this won the Booker Prize in 2018. Yes, in 2018. And as far as I know, this sort of is an interesting take on the Troubles in Northern Ireland in the 1970s. And I've also heard that it's not the easiest book to read, but I definitely want to try. Next, I've got The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gowar. So I don't really know much about this other than that it is about mermaids or mermaid, and it's sort of again blending historical fiction with fantasy. So I really do want to get to this. Then I've got 16 Ways to Defend a Walled City by K.G. Parker. This is a story about a city that is about to be sieged. And the city has no resources to defend itself, and our protagonist is an engineer who has to figure out what to do, even though he doesn't really care about the city at all. And it blends fantasy with humor, and I haven't really read that many books where this has been done well, so I'm hoping that this will be good. Then I've got A Natural History of Dragons by Marie Brennan. Again, I don't really know much about this. I think this is about Lady Trent, who is really into dragons, and I've heard some good things about this. So again, excited to get to this. Then I've got A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor. This tells the story of a Russian count who gets put under house arrest in 1922 in Russia. I have no idea why I haven't picked this up yet, because it's like, I mean, I enjoy reading about this time period, and it seems exactly like my kind of book, so, you know, I really need to get to this. I've got The Dumb House by John Burnside. I'll read you the blurb for this one. As a child, Luke's mother often tells him the story of the Dumb House, an experiment on newborn babies raised in silence designed to test the innateness of language. As Luke grows up, his interest in language and the delicate balance of life and death leads to amateur dissections of small animals, tiny hearts revealed still pumping as life trickles away. But as an adult, following the death of his mother, Luke's obsession deepens, resulting in a haunting and bizarre experiment on Luke's own children. So this book is really short, and I usually really love Burnside, like he's one of my favorite authors, but this book seems completely messed up and it terrifies me. I've actually got the bookmark from the last time that I read this. But yeah, I need to start from the beginning with this, definitely, even though I am slightly terrified of it. Then I've got The Bear and the Nightingale by Katherine Arden. This has been a very, very popular book on BookTube over the recent years, and I think this blends Russian folklore again with sort of historical fiction and fantasy, and it seems like a wintry kind of book, so I'm excited to get to this probably in November or December. Then I've got Washington Black by S.C. Edugyan. Washington Black in this story is an 11-year-old slave on a Barbados plantation, and he gets sort of swept away on an adventure by his master's eccentric brother. So I think this was shortlisted for the Booker Prize, I think in 2018. and it seems like a good story, so I'm excited to get to it. Next is An American Marriage by Tayari Jones. This won the Women's Prize for Fiction in 2019, and it tells the story of a young couple who have recently married, but the husband Roy is arrested and sentenced to prison for 12 years for a crime that his wife knows he didn't commit. And I've heard some excellent things about this. Then I've got The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty, and it's the desert fantasy that everyone's been talking about recently. I've then got A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This is a YA mystery thriller, and it follows a schoolgirl who wants to solve a case where another schoolgirl was found murdered. I'm not usually a huge YA reader, but I've heard some good things about this, so I do want to get to this. Next is The Book of Strange New Things by Michel Faber. So this tells the story of a man of faith who has gone on another planet on a mission, and his wife who has been left behind and whose situation is becoming increasingly more dangerous, and sort of the ways that they're coping. I love this cover. It's sort of all shiny and blue. It's been on my TBR for years and years. And I have no idea why I haven't got around to this yet, so here's hoping. I've then got The Overstory by Richard Powers. This one is very difficult to summarize without having read it, but I think it deals with humans and the relationship with trees and the natural environment, and it's got an interesting structure. I'm someone who grew up in a country where more than half of, or sort of about half of the land is covered in forests. So I've spent a lot of time just sort of going for walks in wild forests and mushroom picking and berry picking, and it's always been a big part of my life. And it still is a big part of my life, so I feel like this topic really speaks to me. I've then got The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I'll read you the blurb for this one. It is 1866, and Walter Moody has come to make his fortune upon the New Zealand goldfields. On the night of his arrival, he stumbles across a tense gathering of 12 local men, who have met in secret to discuss a series of unsolved crimes. A wealthy man has vanished, a whore has tried to end her life, and an enormous fortune has been discovered in the home of a luckless drunk. Moody is soon drawn into the mystery, a network of fates and fortunes that is as complex and exquisitely patterned as the night sky. I think I've mostly been intimidated by its size, but then again, I've read some books that have been over 800 pages recently, so I don't really know what I'm waiting for. Then there's A Brief History of 7 Killings by Marlon James. I have the hardback from when this first came out, and I still haven't read this. So this is the story of an attempted assassination on Bob Marley in the late 1970s. I've heard that this is really violent, but then so was Black Leopard Red Wolf by the same author, which I read I think at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, and I absolutely loved it. So yeah, Black Leopard Red Wolf is definitely a love it or hate it kind of book, so we'll see with this one. And it also won the Booker Prize. Jesus, my copy is so old that it doesn't even say on the cover when it won the Booker Prize, but I think it was back in 2014 or 15 or something like that, so I definitely want to get to this. I've then got The Labyrinth of the Spirits by Carlos Ruiz Zafon. This is the 4th book in the Cemetery of Forgotten Books series. This author is definitely one of my favorite authors of all time. And I was really, really saddened to hear when he had passed away, and that this book will be the last book ever by this author that I will read. But I really do want to get to this because I know that I will absolutely love it. And finally, I've got An Orchestra of Minorities by Chigozie Obioma. I picked this up as soon as it came out because I read The Fisherman by the same author a few years ago and really loved it. But I still haven't got around to this one. As far as I know, this one is like a modern take on the Odyssey, and it's written in the sort of the Igbo literary tradition, which makes it very fascinating. And yeah, I'm really hoping to pick this up very soon. So these are all the books that have been on my TBR for the longest time. I feel like this is an ambitious project, but I'm also really excited to read all of these books. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!